Um, Greetings to everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. When I came on a while ago, I didn't get a response, so I figured you had your mutes on. Yeah. Okay, there's only the two of you, so whatever you'd like to talk about, we will talk about. I think both of you have either finished or almost finished 2, so you're on 3.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And so 3 should look very familiar after having done a student learning plan and a teacher empowerment plan and a management scheduling plan, and now you're doing they called it a marketing plan, but it could very well be called a communication plan, communication and culture plan, because it's really trying to open up communication, school to community, community to school, administration to teachers, teachers to administration, so that you get an improvement in culture, which is what we're going to really focus on next semester. The CAP.
I think I understood more what you and Dr. Todd were talking about prior to task 3, about how it seemed like it was kind of flipped, because when I worked on the task 3 over the weekend, it was confusing to me because I felt like I had already done the plan, and I had already put, what the communication plan was and all of that. And then I felt like it was almost redundant or repetitive to what I'd already been writing about. So that kind of made me nervous. So I have completed it. I finished it over the weekend, and I did turn it in for feedback. I'm hoping that I did everything that I was supposed to do. I touched on all of the prompts and all of that. So fingers crossed. But it made me understand what you were talking about, and Dr. Todd, about how it seems like 2 was the cart in front of the horse kind of feeling when I got to task 3.
Yeah. And task 2 is really very minimal if you think about it, because it was just in 1, you're doing all the work in 1, because you were doing the surveys, collecting the data, trying to find the gaps, looking at where the administration was a little weak. And then in 2, well, here's some things we said we might do. Well, what would it cost to fix that? And so you're gathering all this information about costs. And I'm probably maybe part of your frustration, Ms. Rupert, because I tend to know what's coming down the pike, and I try to get people to think about what they're going to have down there while they're going down the river. So when they get in port, they have all the little fish to fry there. So I always am trying to get people to look at the school improvement plan and what has to go in that school improvement plan, because by the time you get to the end, that's pretty much what it's going to look like, whether you call it a management plan, a marketing plan, a growth plan, whatever. It's still that school improvement plan, basically, where you're saying, okay, we've set this goal, here's the activities we're going to do, here's the time frame, and we're going to break it down. First, we're going to have to do this, then we're going to have to do that, and you make the list of the pieces, and then you come out here and you say, who's going to do the piece, and when's it going to be done, and how are we going to measure it, and all that. And it's very repetitive, but it's very important to have all those pieces, because if you don't have the pieces, the ball gets dropped and rolls under the table, and there's so much to do out there that, we can't ask teachers to just keep doing and doing and doing more stuff. So I really try to get people to do authentic research and authentic projects so that they feel they've done authentic work. And
Mhm.
when you go into an interview, you can talk about the things you've done and talk about it through the eyes of the competencies and how you've used those competencies to improve the environment in your school. So
Mhm.
that's my goal. So um, I hope that's coming across a little bit anyway.
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, that definitely.
I know I was hoping a lot of people would get on before I say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because it's time, I guess. In task 2, the thing I'm seeing is that because we made such a focus on communication, as you're developing the costs, you're doing a good job on the community, those avenues of development. You know, what are we going to do technologically to get more communication going? You're doing a good job with that. You're doing a good job in most cases with parent input and trying to figure out how you can get them more involved. And then sometimes the ball drops there because there's that other piece, the school leadership piece, and that really can be the most important piece because one of the things that I see across the board, across the states, private schools, public schools, high schools, middle schools, primary schools, whatever, there's this thing between the administration and teachers that they have concerns about trust and support and being evaluated fairly. And so if there's anything you as a budding administrator could possibly focus on, it's really those 2 things. Because unless teachers trust you and they know you've got their back, they're not going to step out in front of the bus and expect it to stop. You know, they're just going to step aside and let the bus run over you. So it's really important. It's a 2-way street. I've supported teachers sometimes when I felt like they might sort of be in the wrong, but they didn't break any laws and they didn't hurt anybody. And so you try to be as supportive as you can because teachers are making literally hundreds of decisions every day about what's in the best interest of their students, their school, their principal, how the public sees their school, you know. And if they make a mistake, if it doesn't hurt somebody and it's not illegal, we really need to try to support them and help them get better. And I think we've forgotten in a lot of cases that the reason for evaluation is not gotcha. It's development of the leadership of teachers so that they feel more confident, they have more efficacy in the classroom, and when they feel good about teaching, then they step out and they start being leaders in the school. And, you know, I'm sort of, maybe I shouldn't even say it because it sounds really bad, but I'm old enough, I guess, to be able to say it. There's a lot of things I can't do, but I do know how to teach. And I enjoy teaching. I enjoy teaching students. I enjoy working with teachers. And if you don't enjoy it, you really need to get out of it. Because I think it would kill you if you didn't enjoy it, if you stayed in it too long, because it's hard work. But anyway, the leadership piece has been sort of forgotten in some papers. So if you're one of those people that didn't do that, just make sure, because when you get to task 3, you got to make sure you include the leadership piece in task 3. So if somewhere along the way you drop the ball, you know, it's going to be noticed on down the road. Yeah. So what else about the SCIP that we need to talk about? It's nice to see you, Ms. Hardy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, and I'm better having seen your smile.
Oh,
Except I can't really see it. I can only see your eyes.
oh, I'm trying. Okay.
See your
So
smile. There you are. All right. I can see you now. Okay. It's nice to see you.
How are
Okay.
you?
questions that you have about the SCIP.
I have one question.
Yeah, Ms. Hall, good. I see you. I mean, I don't see you. I see your name.
Yeah, just one question. So in task 2 of the SCIP, do we have to actually have a subheading that says candidate's role? Because the way I was reading the rubric was like you showing evidence of your role through the other areas. But then, you know, I saw a few papers that had the candidate's role as like a separate paragraph.
Well, I think you can do it either way. A lot of people have said throughout the paper, the candidate did this, and the candidate's leadership did whatever, you know, allowed this to happen, or this was a challenge to the candidate's leadership. You know, I mean, saying that in introductory sentences throughout the paper from time to time, they did get that across. You can do it as a heading. That would be perfectly fine.
Okay, and then for the marketing plan. So how we said with the you said with the chart, the table that we create, if we go ahead and include like the formative and the summative categories in that chart, because we were going to be doing it in task 3, that would be helpful. So I did that in task 2, and I actually put information in those. So when I get to task 3 and I'm doing the marketing plan, because I think I kind of
do it, yeah.
Put the marketing plan in task 2, just reading the rubric, I think I kind of.
Yeah, like, I think that would be fine. One of the things that I'm noticing about all of these marketing plans, or you know, whichever they are, growth plans, action plans, student learning plans, whatever, the school improvement plan, they should not have long run-on sentences and phrases and all that. It should get down to the nitty-gritty of what is it. You don't have to explain it because you explained it in the narrative. So in the graphic, make sure you're using as few words as possible while you're still getting the impact. You know, if you're going to do a workshop, for example, you don't have to explain how you're expecting whatever to happen for the formative assessment. Maybe the formative assessment is just that there is a roster of teachers taking the workshop. You know, 90% of the teachers appeared on the roster. That would be something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the marketing plan, though, are we just explaining how we're going to market what we said in tasks 1 and 2, like the short and long term goals?
Well, you're going to follow through just like you have with all these others.
Okay.
The first plan, the first task, you did a needs assessment with the communication, internal, external. You also did an organizational analysis where you looked at the leadership. For each of those, you came up with long and short and long-term objectives. Then you came up with how much is it going to cost to do the activities that you came up with to hopefully improve the communication and the climate in the school because of the weaknesses of the administration. And so then that's in 2, you did the money. Now in 3, you're just going to take those same things, make sure you're addressing the same things in your marketing plan that you identified and you found the resources for. And one of the things I saw in a paper that I'm reading right now is that they
I'm sorry.
They talked about the resources, though, in some of them they quoted this, it'd be this much per week, and another thing they would say it costs this much for the total package, and in another one it was this much for a month. What you need to do is realize this plan should be taking us, say, to the end of the year where we'll reevaluate. And so the money should be the same. You know, if you're going to do a newsletter and it's going to cost $50 a month to do it, well, you've got to have $50 for April, May, and June, or at least April and May. So, you know, I saw that, and that really would, if you were doing a budget, you would have to do it for the whole term that you're going to be implementing the program. Yeah. Okay, Ms. Hall, that was not what you wanted to hear. What? Tell me again.
That was, you kind of helped me out. I kind of understand. I have a better understanding from what you said.
Oh, okay. Because it's important that when you do the plan, that you just don't let any of those threads fall out of the tapestry. You've still got to have the avenues and how much they cost and how you're going to get it done. And you've got to have the administration, the climate stuff, you know, how much is it going to cost after you've decided what it was, of course, but how much is it going to cost? And then how is it going to happen in the plan? And it's just make sure all of that is pulled through the whole document as you're putting it together. Yeah. Other questions? Those are about the only things that I've seen in papers. People forgetting to do the leadership piece, and then inconsistent units when you come to the budget. It really should be either how much is it going to cost a month, or how much is it going to cost for the night. If you're planning a nightly event, how much is it going to cost for that? If you're going to do one now and another one at the end of the year, well, depending on if it's the same kind of event, one event might cost more than another. So you might actually have to do them separately, especially if they're very different events. If you're in a high school and one is a multicultural night, or a Gerard art exhibit, or theater night, or whatever it might be, that would be a different cost than if you had people coming in for college night, where you were talking about filling out your FAFTA form and having, you know, punch and cookies after you listen to a lecture, and showing how to fill out the college application forms, and recruiters talking to parents, and, you know, that would be a different cost factor. So you'd have to do it differently. But there was one person I was reading about in just a little bit. They had done an activity, and so they knew how much that cost because they've already done it. So they can just go to the bookkeeper and find out how much did it cost. And so they're talking about doing the same activity again. Well, you need to sort of talk about why you do that same activity again. Did the parents say, wow, this was so successful, I hope we do it again soon? You know, if a lot of people said that, well, hey, do it again soon, right? But you can just pick up those figures and translate them into what you're going to do next time, knowing that if you did something and it was the first time you've done it and it was well received and you're doing it again, you may in fact get more participation, so it may cost a little more the second time. So you might plan on a few more people participating. But that should be an easier one to figure out the cost. Did you have trouble?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have a question. So I believe it was last week when you talked about task 2, you said that if we had several things that we were planning to do, it might be best to say, like, we brainstormed and we came up with these 6 ideas, but we prioritized, and so we're going to focus on one. Mm-hmm. So my question is, for the action plan, for the marketing plan, are we only focusing on that one that we're saying that we prioritize for? Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
What you find in 3 should be the outgrowth of 2. And that's why I was saying, don't do 6 things in 2, because then in 3, you've got to do all those things. But if you say, I'm going to prioritize them and we're only going to do this one or this two, then that's what you have to pull to 3. So
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're good. And that's why at the beginning of the paper, it's always good to say, just do a little summary paragraph like an intro to this paper, but it's actually a summary before you shift gears into the new paper, that based on the data that we gathered, yada, 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 this is what we've decided to focus on, and we're developing a marketing plan so that we can carry this forward into reality. Just set the stage for it and then jump into it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good question.
And we definitely don't need to give all that background information again, do we?
You don't need to give all the background information, but I just sort of an introductory, that communication, the team has decided that communication can really be an asset that's been underutilized, maybe, and looking at the things that they're excited about, the potential for things that were discussed, and you can list the things discussed. And the marketing plan is going to flesh out how we see putting this into action. However you want to say it, just a short little something that brings it into focus, that from here on, we're not going to be finding new things to do. We're talking about how to do what you've already set the stage for. You've already done your research. You've already talked it out. You've already narrowed it down. This is what we're going to do. And now the marketing plan is exactly what the implementation is going to look like, and what it's going to cost, who's going to do it, where it's going to happen, how are you going to evaluate it, what do you expect the outcome to be, all of that. But it doesn't have to be long. It's that, I'm sure I've said it before, it's the old miniskirt thing, long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. So that's where we want to be. Okay, other questions? All right, well, I don't know, but it just seems like we are moving along pretty well. I'm glad that we're to this point, because if you are working on 2 or 3, you should be in line to finish without a whole lot of headaches. I see that because, as you know, when you finish 3, 4 is just going to be the reflection. You're then going to go to the competency folio, do your competency folio requirements for the SCIP, and then begin working on the CAP. And for those of you who are here with me right now, I think most of you are on track. And I would say, if you get into the CAP and you can just keep going with it, do as much of it as you can. Because the spring, you know how the spring is, whether you're in an elementary school and you've got to take all those field trips and have all those parties and have all those tests and all that stuff, or a middle school where you're testing and trying to get some of them registered for high school, and whether you're high schoolers trying to get them graduated and going to college. I mean, the spring is, it's hard. So try to get as much of this done as you can going into that, because hopefully some of you are going to be interviewing also in the spring. So you don't want to go in interviewing with circles under your eyes from being up all night, So I want you to be ready. I want to hear good things. I want to hear about all those jobs and interviews. Okay. What about competency folio? Anybody have a question about that? Competency folio. Any question?
I have a question, Dr. Todd.
Yes.
So you put comments there for me, and now that I'm looking at them, I can't see the comments anymore, although it says
Oh.
see a full list of comments below, but I don't see your comments.
Oh. Well, I don't know what's happened there.
Okay.
Oh dear.
I'll just keep working on it, and then I'll just request comments again from you.
Well, I don't want to.
I know you don't want to have to.
I don't want to read them again. Okay, let me see what I can figure out here. Just let's see what might I be able to look at, Ms. Holland. Let me just go look at my little sheet here, and see what I say. Let me see what I see. Now I see, Ms. Holland, that I think there were just a couple of places where there was an APSL requirement and you hadn't put it in.
Okay.
And that's the only thing I see. There's an OMA under responsiveness that I haven't seen. And there is an APSL under conflict management that I haven't seen.
Okay.
And I do declare that looks like about all.
Okay. What was the one for the OMA again?
The OMA was responsiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'm worried though, because I'm really worried about it, because I mark them as once they're okay, I say, like the APSL submission is okay or whatever, so that when we get to 605, we can just go through and you can just look and see that I've approved 3 things and that they're the right things that you need, because
I think
happens. Yeah.
I think mine might be doing the same thing. When I go back in and look, I can't see your comments either. It says the same thing, see a history of comments, but there's nothing there. And then it's all locked, but I never finalized it, so I don't know why it would be locked.
Be locked. Yeah, it's
Like I can make changes I can edit my portfolio. Oh, okay. I can still edit my portfolio because I did some last night, but I can't see the history of the comments.
That's interesting. I don't know about that. That's not a good thing.
I'll keep messing around in it and see if I can figure it out.
Let me see. I'm gonna go look at Miss Holland for just a minute. It'll take me a minute though, because I don't have task screen up. And sometimes it takes forever to log on. That's not where we need to be. If they would just not have quite so many advertisements, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? Oh, I don't want that.
Congratulations. You have been selected to.
If I could just
I
be
was tired of
selected
my
for
job.
something
I wanna have a
fun,
real career.
right?
I needed to earn my degree.
Oh gosh, the world of advertising.
Mine is, I found them now, so I'm all set, Dr. Tillman.
You found them?
Yes, ma'am. I found mine, so I'm all set.
Okay.
How are you able to access your comments? Can you share that with me?
I went down each where it said overall comments on the side. I just clicked through each individual competency, and they're showing up under there.
Oh yeah, you have to go to each individual competency to see the individual
comments. Yeah, I did that and I didn't see it. I'll try it again. I don't have that open right now, but I'll try it again. And if I have problems still, Dr. Todd, I'll email you.
Yeah, just make sure. And also, when you request comment, please don't request comment up there on the whole portfolio. Request on the competency that you work on, because what comes up on my side is that you've entered something on every competency. So I have to go into every one to find what you put in. And sometimes it's only one submission, and I've looked at all 21 to find it. So it's really helpful if you'll just request comment on the one that you're working on at that time. I'm glad you found it, because I thought, oh no, we have another glitch in task stream. Because it can be really bad. And they were down, it was a couple of days ago for you know, how the updates, and sometimes when updates happen, they're really down dates. They're not very uppers at all. Okay, so any other questions before we adjourn? Ms. Hardy, would you like to stay for a moment and let's go over what our plan is? We are really moving ahead there, so we want to celebrate that a little bit.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Anything for the good of the group? I'm going to take the recording off then, and I look forward to seeing those good papers. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. And I'm going to hit the recording, and
Okay.
there we go. All right. Okay. I haven't been on to see if you submitted 3 and 4. Did you put 3 and 4 in my Blackboard space? Great. Okay. Have you?
This is what's going on. I could have, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Hold on, let me see.
Did you turn it into Dr. Todd? That's the big thing.
Yes, I did.
And did you get comments back from her?
Yes, I got comments back from her.
And the comments were good?
The comments were out of 100, it was 85.
Okay. Okay.
So which, on both papers, the APA format wasn't the best. But overall, that was, I just kept moving on. So I did the 4th, and I just kind of started with this the SCIP.
Okay. So
and I just, what I'm doing is just like, I'm continuing with the discussion board and just kind of keeping up with that. So at least I'm on task.
Yeah. Okay.
Discussion.
Yeah, I want you to keep up with the classwork too. But now, as far as compiling the OMA so it can be put through task, the Turnitin, and actually submitted to your portfolio, when do you think you will be able to get that done?
Yeah, so it's just a matter of taking everything and putting it in. The lady I'm doing my internship with, my assistant principal, she's familiar with this program. So she said she's going to help me just kind of, we're going to sit together and do it. However, you know, it's.
Okay. The main thing is, you know, you've got one title page. You should have a little abstract that just sort of tells what it is. It's almost like the description of the the whole evidence. You know, I looked at this and I did that, and this paper does this and this paper does that, whatever. Just maybe a half to 3/4 of a page. It's not long, just an abstract. And then you just start with the tasks, and there should be one reference page. So with each of these tasks, if you have references, you just compile them into one reference page at the end.
Okay.
And that's the same way with the appendices. If you have appendix items with 1 and appendix items with 2, then they all need to go into the same appendix. So you might need to change the lettering, because if you did some in 2 and you did it A, B, C, and you did A, B, C in the first one, then you got to make it D, E, F when you come over here. So you have to change it in the paper and change and move it over. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So not a whole lot to do, but it'll be nice to get it out of your hands.
I really wish this class was like a sit-in where I could sit, because I think my life would be so much easier.
It would be. That's why I want to meet with you, because I think that's one of the problems is you need to see people.
Yes.
Seeing people is really important. Okay. So the OMA, did you sort of set yourself a deadline for getting the compiled paper done?
Yes, I'm trying by this weekend. I'm just waiting on her because it's there, but she keeps saying, like, I want to be able to send it to you the correct way. It seems like I'm submitting it wrong, because I could have sworn I submitted it to you, and I submitted it one area, and I just went again to submit it in another area on your part. I'm hoping it went through.
I wonder if you submitted it to the evaluation Dropbox instead of, because I never look in the evaluation Dropbox because I don't use that. Dr. Todd uses it. So, but just make sure I get it, because I was really worried about you. I hadn't seen you in class or office hours, and I just was worried about you because I don't want you to get behind. I want you to keep.
I'm worried too, Doc. I'm worried about myself as well.
Well, but it's not going to be much longer. You just have to really know that we're really hopeful. Now let's talk about the SCIP. We're going to go back to SCIP 1. How much of that have you done?
Just a draft. I haven't.
When you say you've done a draft, what does that mean you've done? Do you have the headings? You've got the headings done?
I have the headings, so I'm just like kind of doing piece by piece. So no, okay. I guess. Okay.
So do you have your computer up where you can type, or do you have your notebook where you can take notes?
Yes.
While she's gone, Miss James Robinson, we have already closed down. Oh, it says I'm still recording, but I thought I hit the record button. I am so sorry. I wanted to, I hit the don't record.